Good morning! What the heck are we all doing here so early? I mean, like, oh my God, what's going on? I understand it from my point of view because I wander around. I'm a wandering Jew, right? So I just happened to breakfast crash and they said, can you speak on anything? I said, sure. What a fabulous moment this is. Let's change it a little bit. You can feel it in my voice, right? Yeah. What a fabulous moment it is to feel you all and to feel the love that you have for each other and to feel the mosaic of what you create together here. What a beautiful thing, Diana, you've created, and Ted, you've supported. What an amazing opportunity to bring people together to create something greater than it's ever been. And what I want to do is I want to talk to you about my book, but if it's just characters in a book, it's not alive, it's a book. When I bring up the characters in the book, I want to talk to you about the character that you're sitting right next to. I did a podcast yesterday or the day before with a homeless man. And one of the goals of the mosaic is to give voice to those people that don't have voice. Most of the world has no opportunity to tell you what it believes because all we hear is from the people that are the influencers and the important people and those people that are on television and doing everything. But 99% of us don't do that. And so I wanted to hear, and my goal is to take a trip around the world to video and create a series of what do the voiceless people have to say, because every single one of them would have something beautiful to tell us. I remember sitting in a cab when I was with Hay House going to sign a big author in New York. And the cab was stopped at a traffic light. And I looked to my left and I looked to my right, and there at the traffic light on the four corners of the street, nobody was walking yet because they were all held up waiting for the light to turn. And there must have been 1,000 people on every single corner of the street. And had I had the courage at that moment to tell the cab driver, stop the car, and if I would have gotten out and talked to any one of those people, I would have signed the next New York Times bestseller. But I didn't have the courage to do that then, and I continued on to my meeting. And I met with somebody that world knew, and we signed them for a great deal, and we had a fabulous run with that author. But inside all of us is a story that wants to be told. And when I sat with my podcast with this homeless man, and I said to him, you're homeless. What do you see when you see people walking by you? And he said, I see people who think I'm less than an animal. They're scared of me. They're afraid of me. They don't know what to do. They have nothing to be scared of. And I said, well, what would you say to them if you could say one thing? Because that's the subject of this movie that I want to create, this documentary that I want to do. What would be the one thing that you would say if you could say something? And his answer was so simple and so sublime. He said, take 10 minutes and go up to somebody you don't know. And with your full heart, ask them, how are you? And then just listen. He said, do you know what happened for me when someone did that for me? My world had just about crumbled. Everything was going against me. I was strung out on drugs because I couldn't deal with the life that I was living. I was thrown out of the shelter I was in. I was living on the street. I was 1 inch away from saying, this is it, and going off to kill myself. And one person that I didn't even know came up to me and said, how are you? And let me just share that with him. There's a beautiful Vietnamese monk by the name of Thich Nhat Hanh. And Thich Nhat Hanh was on Super Soul Sunday with Oprah. And he talked about this practice called compassionate listening. And God, I wish I was smart enough to have come up with it because it's exactly to me what the mosaic is. But he says it's so much better than I said it. I would prefer to give him credit for it and not photo steal his opportunity, right? He said, imagine when you're talking with someone, if you would be able to say to them, and I don't want you to imagine it, I want you to feel it right now, because I want to hold the space for every one of you right here in this moment to do this with me. I used to hold the space inside me, but I can't do that anymore. I'm too much of an empath. It hurt me too much. So now I hold the space out here, right between you and me. And in this space, I invite you to pour everything that you are, all of the suffering, all of the pain, all of the things that give you turmoil. I invite you to pour it all in. You don't have to do it stand up and make a fool of yourself by telling us vulnerably what you're going to give into it. Just do it quietly. Allow yourself to feel all of the things that trouble you, all of your suffering, all of your pain, all of the things that bother you, that wake you up in the middle of the night, that keep you in angst, that keep you in tension, all of the questions about what will the future bring, all of the questions about what will happen to my kids, what will I be if this doesn't work out, how will I take care of myself, what about my health, what about blah, 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 the monkey mind that we know so beautifully. And just pour it all into the space. It's here for you. You can come and pick it out whenever you want. But the compassionate part of this listening that I'm going to do with you right now, and if we were one-on-one, I would ask you to tell it all to me. If I had more time, I'd do it with you right now as a group, and I'd let all of you pour it in. But for right now, let's do it in silence, because in the silence, that's what really changes us anyway. We were having that talk last night, right? So into the space, put it all in there. And as you watch it emptying out from yourself, feel the physiological and chemical change in your body that happens when you no longer have to carry it with you. When you can just put it into a safe space, it's there for you. The Indians have a great practice. When they come into a house, they take off their shoes. And they say when you take off your shoes, all your demons stay with those shoes. All your troubles are with those shoes. And when you get up and you go out of the house, you can put your shoes right back on and take them with you again. But don't bring them into this house, right? So let's do that same practice right here. Put it all right in here. In the talk that I'm giving right now, I'm going to tell you a secret that I don't normally tell people. My words are not what I want you to hear. What I want you to hear is the space between my words. What I want you to feel is the vibration that's coming through me to awaken the vibration in all of you, to actually affect a miracle right here in this room right now. We are not in this room alone. We are part of a group. We are part of a connected reality that has so much more power than we have on our own. And when we use that power collectively, we see solutions to things we never even knew were problems. We find answers to things that troubled us all the time. So what I want you to do is allow the camouflage of my voice and the stories that I'm going to tell you to put your mind at ease and be taken care of while we do the work of the heart. Because in this moment, our hearts are connecting. And I'm going to take a risk. Can you feel it? Is there anybody that can feel it? Okay. For those of you who can feel it, let's increase the magnetism. So for those people who can't feel it or are too afraid to feel it, if you're afraid to feel it, just put it all in here. This isn't a hypnosis. I'm not going to get you barking like dogs, right? I'm not going to ask you to give me all your money. What I'm going to ask you to do is give yourself all of yourself. To find that place in you that has been longing to be heard. To find that place like the homeless man that I interviewed, that just wanted one opportunity, just one chance for one person to come and say to him, "How are you?" So he could share with that person who he was and how he was doing. And empty it all out of himself. He's still alive today. Obviously, I talked to him a couple days ago, right? But before he spoke to that man, he didn't know that he was going to be alive. So what's the mosaic? I took you on a little journey before we got to the place where we started. The mosaic is a story. It happened against my will. I was trying to write another book. I was trying to write a book called V2, which is the second version of your life, which would have been a great talk for you all here today. Because you've all done most of the life that you've come to live, and you have a second version that you can either retire and just wait to die, or you could create the second version of your life, which is like the rocket ship that takes off. The first version takes off, and the second rocket ship propels it into space where it's going. That's the place that we're at right now. That would have been a great friggin' book for this talk. And I wrote all the principles, and I wrote all the practices, and I gave it to a friend of mine who became my muse. And she said, Danny, what are you doing? This isn't your book. And I said, I'm sorry, did you think I plagiarized it? Who did I take it from? She said, no, you didn't plagiarize it, you idiot. You're a storyteller. You're not a self-help guy. Everything you stand for is against self-help. You don't believe that you people need to be fixed, so what are you writing a book to fix people for? And I said, darn good point. But there was a part of me that had already committed myself to writing this book, and I said, I fought her for about a minute and a half to make myself feel comfortable that I put up a struggle. And I said to her, what would you have me write? Like, here it is. This is a step-by-step guide to bringing people into a new life. That's like what sells. I was at Hay House. I know the story. I know the formula. I know exactly how to do it. I helped other people do it. I can do this for people. She said, write a fable. I said, a fable? Are you kidding me? I went into another minute and a half of battle. And I saw the endurance that I had to fight as a young kid lessened as I got older. And I thought, but that's brilliant. Because when you tell people stories, what happens? The stories are no longer my story. As the words translate from my mouth to your ears, what you hear is your story. When you hear of the characters that I speak of, you don't hear them the way I speak of them. You hear them the way you hear them. The story is about a boy who loses his parents, not unlike myself. The story is about a boy who then asks the adults where his parents are. He's a young boy. Where'd my parents go? Common question. Why would a boy want to know that? I was 13 when my dad died on July 4th and 15 when my mom died, 2 years later on the exact same day. July 4th, you can imagine when the firecrackers go off to this day how joyful I am. And the message that I took for almost 45 years from their passing was that I needed to be independent. I mean, they died on Independence Day. What a perfect, beautiful example of a story to make me independent. It was only in rereading the Mosaic and having a conversation with a person who had come to me to talk about the Mosaic that I realized for 45 years I got the message entirely wrong. My parents weren't telling me that to be independent. They were telling me independence means death. If you try and do it alone, you're going to die. They died on Independence Day. They weren't born on Independence Day. And when I realized the world that we live in, we believe that we're here alone, that we're going to do it alone, that we're going to stand up and we're going to somehow put on our superhuman costumes. And we're going to use these superpowers that live within us to create a new world on our own, and we are going to excel. Pardon my language. I said bullshit. We were never meant to do this alone. I'm going to do an experiment with you. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being what you would hate to be, and 10 being what you would love to be, and even more than that, what you want your children to be and your children's children to be. On that scale, where would you place the word ordinary? Please raise your hand if it's a 1 or a 2. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being what you would hate for your kids to be and 10 being what you would love for your kids to be, where would you put the word ordinary? 1, or if it's in the 1, 2, 3 range, raise your hand.
Is that good or bad?
1 is what you don't want them to be. 1 would be ordinary. So everybody raising your hands right now saying, I do not want my kids to be ordinary. Okay, is that a fair statement? For those of you where are those of you who didn't raise your hand? Tell me, and what number would you put that ordinary at? 1. Okay, so we're all at 1. I was going to say everybody else in the room is lying, but I don't know you well enough. On that same scale, with 1 being what you don't want your kids to be, and 10 being what you want your kids to be, in other words, I want my kids to be extraordinary. Where would you put extraordinary? 10. Okay. I've asked probably thousands of people these same 2 questions. I'm sorry, tell me what your conversation is. I would love to know what you're saying because you interest me. And at that same point in time, I can get a sip of water. You want them to be extraordinarily ordinary. I love your mind. Yes, please.
I would want my child to be happy, whether they're ordinary or extraordinary.
I love you, but that wasn't in the equation. Do you see how we rationalize our way through tough questions that are really simple to answer, first of all, okay? I love ordinary people. My answer would be for ordinary 10 and for extraordinary 1. But I'm so different. You can see by the way I dress. You can see by the way I look. You can see by the way I think that I don't think like most people. And that used to be the thing that separated me out and made me feel more alone than anybody. Until businesses and corporations started to say, we want to innovate and we don't know how to do it because we're stuck thinking where we are. And they started to bring me in because they said, you look like you think differently, until they saw the way I was dressed. And they said, well, you can't come here dressed like that. And I said, oh, you want somebody ordinary? Go hire somebody else. My wife even today said, it's a nice place. Don't dress with your clogs on. And I said, how can I be anything other than I am? She said, well, there's strict dress codes. And she put me in and she showed, see, dress codes will be enforced. I said, let them throw me out. It's okay. I can go with being thrown out. It's okay. I've been thrown out of better joints than this. So here's a question for all of us who think that ordinary is bad, or not bad, but we don't want our kids to be that way. But we do want them to be extraordinary, right? Why do you want your kids to be extra of something you don't want them to be? Does that make sense to you? It doesn't make sense to me, but everybody in this room wants it, almost, right? To the exception of one person who wants them to be happy, whether they're ordinary or extraordinary, or someone who wants them to be extraordinarily ordinary. And I love that. You go ahead, please.
Do you remember when Wayne Dyer had a whole PBS show on why be ordinary? And he was encouraging people to be extraordinary.
I know.
And at the time, I took it literally and wanted to do extraordinary things. However, what he meant was extraordinary in the sense that they were more spiritual. They weren't, they thought more in metaphysical terms.
Wayne was a buddy of mine. I brought him to Hay House. And he and I battled philosophically our whole life. And even from beyond the grave, he's coming to me now to battle with me right this minute. I'm going to kill you, Wayne! No. So, with all seriousness aside, what the Mosaic has taught me is extraordinary things happen when extraordinaries come together. We were never meant to do this alone. We were never meant to be extraordinary. We were given a bad rap of what ordinary is. Is there anything more ordinary than watching the sunrise in the morning We can predict to the moment that it's going to happen every single day. It's the most ordinary occurrence in creation. Is there anything more ordinary than watching the buds on a tree come at springtime and open up? It's the most exquisite thing in the world. Where did we start to learn that ordinary is not good and extraordinary is what we want to be?
At the inside edge.
At the inside edge. You'll never have me back as a speaker. So I want to challenge that. And I really want to, what I do in general when I work with people, when I work with companies, when I work with anybody, when I work with myself, is I take the belief systems that I believe and I turn them over. I throw them all on the ground and I say, what's going to come up now? What do I want to re-pick up again? I'd like you to take a look at what extraordinary does to the human mind. When we set the bar that we have to be extraordinary and we don't achieve the extraordinary, all it does is continue to create the self-loathing process that we go through of I'm not good enough, I can't be what I'm supposed to be. But when we know that ordinary is all that we have to be, and in order to achieve extraordinary things, we come together with people in this room. And we say, what would we collectively do? Very much like what I said to you when I opened up, where you didn't even trust me enough for me to say that, but I just felt I had to say it. The words that we're talking about has nothing to do with what's happening here. What we're trying to do now is take the individual pieces of this mosaic that's sitting here and bring them together into a collective heart, into a collective mind, where if you would realize the power of what Diana and Ted have created now, this isn't just a place to come on once every 2 weeks to have breakfast and hear somebody boring like myself speak. This is a place for you to come together with your hearts and souls and minds and bring your projects and your lives together so that someone can go through a heart surgery and feel the support of her family right there. But what would happen if we did that in our life? What would happen if this very organization itself was asking you to be sensitive enough to listen to it and hear where it wants you to go in the next 50 years? What would you hear? What would you see? We all know what we see when we see what we see. What would you see if you could see what you don't see? And the beauty of the mosaic is that's what it showed me. Because Mo met all these weird people. He went out and he met a trash man and a blind woman and a homeless guy and a street artist and a juice man and a waitress and a gardener. And he said, I'm on my way to try and find heaven. What am I meeting these people for? They don't seem like the classic archetypes of people who can show me heaven. What in the heck are these people giving me? What am I doing? My trip is for naught. But he said, hold it, you know what? I'm sitting here with them. Why don't I just listen to what they have to say? And like my friend Corey, the homeless person, I didn't know what he had said when I wrote this 3 years ago, or when it wrote me 3 years ago. Just take 10 minutes and listen to what the people have to say. I have the beautiful gift of having a developmentally delayed daughter. She's 29 years old. It wasn't always a beautiful gift, believe me. There were times that I wanted to just say, Holy Mother of God, I cannot do this. My wife had passed away. I was raising her on my own. She was in tantrums and angry and upset, until I finally realized after 3 years of watching her go through tantrums and trying to attack me, I said, Elisa, are you trying to tell me something? And she went from her rage to this big laugh from her belly and said, yes, Daddy. And I said, are you talking to me in a way that I can't understand? And she said, yes, Daddy. And I said, how are you talking to me? Because I can't understand your words. Because what she would do is she would say something, and normally I've been with her whole life. I can interpret her words to get a sense of what she's doing. She's not going to talk philosophy with me, but she's going to tell me I'm hungry or I'm tired, or she won't ever tell me something hurts, but she'll tell me sort of the basic needs, or I want to go here or I don't want to go here. And I couldn't get it sometimes. As much as I wanted to try it, I couldn't get it. And I would say, what are you saying? And so she would say it louder. And it wasn't because of the volume I couldn't hear it, although now maybe my ears are starting to go and her volume would help. But it wasn't because of the volume, it was because of the clarity of her language. And so I said, I don't hear you. Tell me what you're trying to say. And when I couldn't hear her, she would tantrum. Because she would be so frustrated that she couldn't tell the only person that could understand her what she was trying to say, and I couldn't understand her, and she would throw these tantrums. And when I still couldn't understand her, she'd come running, and she'd try and tear my shirt or bite me. 3 years of that happening, sometimes 4, 5, 6 times a day. Until I finally got the message, hold it, I need to listen here somehow in a way that I haven't learned how to listen before. I need to hear what I haven't heard before. And I said, Elisa, now that I know you're talking to me, now that I know you're saying something to me in a way that I don't understand, tell me how you're saying it. Show me, point to it, do something. Do you want to use pictures? She just went like this. I said, you little son of a gun. I thought you were doing that, but I didn't trust it. You're putting thoughts into my head, aren't you? And she started to hysterically laugh. All that rage turned into this belly laugh that I wish I would have taped it. I could have made millions of dollars because you couldn't hear it without contagiously laughing from it. And I said to her, now that I know how you're talking to me, speak to me. And you know, from that day on, she hasn't thrown one tantrum. She hasn't raised her voice once. Because she gets to that place where we start to do it, and I say, okay, here. And I'm going to listen, and she talks to me, and I hear it. Everything in this world reacts the same way. Every person in this world, every business in this world acts the same way. It is trying to speak to us. Everything, the beautiful thing about writing a fable is you can make shoes talk to a person because it's a fable. But our life is a fable. The very clothes we wear talk to us. The very wind going through the trees talks to us. The very scent of a person walking past us talks to us. The very sound of a bird, if we would listen to it, is talking to us. Our companies are talking to us. Our kids are talking to us, not in the ways that we want them to talk to us. We have to learn how to listen again. We live in a society where we talk a lot and we listen a little. We need to flip that around. You know, I'm not going to get so cliche and say God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. I'm not going to say it. Do I need to say it again? So in the book, The Mosaic, what happens is he goes and he meets these people. And I want to just tell you a couple of their stories. As he's walking through town, he has nothing on his back and nothing in his pockets. He's a boy. He's walking through the town. He doesn't even know how he's making it from day to day because he doesn't have a place to stay. He doesn't have a backpack. He doesn't have anything. And he's walking along the street and a garbage truck stops right beside him and says, the driver in the truck leans out and says, sir, do you have any garbage? Mo looks around and says, I'm sorry, the streets are immaculately clean. Do I look like I have anything on me? And he's just about to say, what in the hell are you talking about? Like, how could I have any garbage? Until he looks in the driver's eye and he sees the twinkle that's there. And he says, oh, hold it. I don't think you're talking about physical garbage. I think you want to know if I have any garbage inside of me that's keeping me from doing what I need to do. And oh boy, I have a ton of that. And he says to the garbage man, yes, I have a ton of garbage, but I'm scared. I'm scared to give that up because it fills all my space. I don't know what would occupy my space if I didn't have that garbage. And the driver says, well, I'm here. Would you like me to help you empty the garbage? I have a lot of time. That's what I do. I'm a garbage man. And he said, would you? Third time, I'm here. He said, I would love you to come. And will you enter me and help me take these big things out that have been keeping me? These stories, these old beliefs, these ways of thinking and being that are keeping me from living the life that I'm meant to live. Will you help me take them? He said, sure, let's go. He rolls up his sleeves, and together they go into the house of who Mo is. And they empty his garbage. I didn't realize it until after I wrote that story, that as a boy at 4 years old, I used to sit out on Friday mornings in Philadelphia and wait for the trash man to come in his trash truck. And in those days, they rode on the back of the truck. And they would pick up the cans and they would throw them in, and they would come every day at the same time on Friday into our neighborhood. And I would watch them, and eventually, it was months at a time that I was watching them every Friday. The trash man said, would you like to come and ride on the truck with us? And I thought I had died and went to heaven. And I went and I told my mom, Mom, I know what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be a trash man. She wasn't as polite to me as you've been right with that laugh. But I'll tell you right now, if my son or daughter came to me today, and I have a stepson and daughter through my wife, Anna, if they were to come to me today and tell me they wanted to be that trash man, I would invest every single dollar that I had in helping them to be that trash man. And you know something? You got to be careful what you wish for. Because today, isn't that what I just did when I held out this container to you and said, put all your trash in here? Isn't that what I do every single day with the people that I meet? That I hold the space for you to put all your trash in it so you no longer have to carry it. And when you're ready and you tell me it's okay, I'll take it away from you so you never have to see it again. You can read the story of the mosaic and never get that story. You can think that this is a talk that I'm talking to you about something random and never really understand what's happening beneath the surface of my words. Can you feel what the room feels like right now? Maybe I'm just hallucinating. Maybe I did too many drugs as a kid. But can you feel the difference in the room right now than when we first came in? Is there a difference? If you feel it, raise your hand. Okay. So that's enough people that something's happening here. And it isn't because of me, because I'm just one piece in this mosaic. It's us. What I would like to really invite you to do, I want you to read my book, but I don't want you to read my book to read the words. I want you to read my book to start a movement in Inside Edge. I want you to start to understand the dynamic of what's real and what isn't real. Because when Mo finally saw that he saw person after person after person, and he visualized them when he came in, just like Corey, the homeless guy that I talked to on my podcast, and how people initially saw him and how I saw him after I talked to him on the podcast, I want you to start to get past the initial first impression. Because what would you see if you could see what you don't see? Because when that happened over and over and over again to Mo in the story, and he met these people and he suddenly went away and said, boy, I didn't see that coming at all. That hit me like a left hook. I never knew they were that person. He finally met an archetype of heaven. He met the monk who unzipped the sky and took his hand and walked him through to a parallel reality where he met the wise one. And when he met the wise one, he was building a mosaic. He was rearranging and reshifting the pieces in the place called this world, so that the connections that no longer served us would disappear and the connections that do serve us would surround us. Now, I'm not for like-minded communities. A lot of the things that I believe in are mind hacks that really will ask you to change the way you view the world. When I first found my like-minded community, And I went into a yoga community. I was a monk in a monastery, and I found my monks and my brothers who got up with me at 3 o'clock in the morning and would meditate till 8 and go out to work for a few hours and come back and meditate for another 2 hours at lunchtime and go out and work a little bit and come back and meditate for another 3 hours into the evening. I thought I had died and gone to heaven because these were my brothers. But if you read my book, you'll meet a person called the Traveler. And the Traveler has this uncanny ability to find the pace of your walk and walk in complete harmony with you. She walks in a swarm, not in a singular mind. She's able to tune into the way you move and move together with you. And Mo looks at her and says, how are you moving like that? How do you mirror my step? Like I've been trying to trip you up. I try to slow down and I try and go fast and you're right there step by step with me. How do you do that? And she said, if I were to ask you, Mo, what 3 things does everything in the world have? What would you answer me? What would you answer me? Gives me another chance to get a sip of water. What do you think the 3 things that exist in every single thing in the world are?
Being, energy, air.
Think simpler. Think less metaphysical. When I tell you you're going to hit me, please don't hit me. Everything in the world has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
So it's not a process. That's true when you say what 3 things, because that's a process.
Okay. I love your rationalization of my...
It helps to think clearly about that.
Thank you. I don't want you to think clearly. I want you to think the way you are so I can disrupt your minds. There was a beautiful beginning to the purpose of like-minded communities. When I was a crazy man walking the streets and I was trying to get my voice heard, I would go, ow! And it would carry for a block. No impact. When I found my pond of crazy people just like me, the crazy people that Steve Jobs talks about that created Apple, when I found my tribe of those people, suddenly our ow was magnified by thousands. And we started to get heard. And it was so beautiful and so nourishing and so alive and so revitalizing that I thought I would never leave it. But remember, everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's time for like-minded communities to end. And I'll tell you why. Because our silos of like-mindedness are getting bigger and stronger. And those voices are starting to have impact. But the gaps between our silos of like-minded communities are getting wider and deeper. And they're creating so much tension and so much dismay and so much argumentation where my silo is fighting your silo. And we've forgotten that we are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are now the red people and the blue people and the yellow people and the orange people and the black people and the white people and the female people and the masculine people. We are so segmented that our world is falling apart. The very mosaic that we have created and come into is now lying as broken pieces, dying to tell us it wants to be reassembled and reunited because it knows on its own it has no power. Were you raising a hand or just saying, saluting me? You were just a thumbs up, okay. Thank God someone saluted me. I'm not crazy, no. My like-minded community. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's time for us to melt down those walls of those silos and become one people again. When our Constitution was written, the first 3 words said, "We the people." What happened to we the people? Where did that go? It didn't say we the red, we the ones on the coast, we the ones in the middle, we the ones that carry guns, we the ones that don't believe in guns, we the liberals, we the rights. It didn't say we the one that watch Fox News and we the one that watch CNN. It didn't say any of that. It said we the people. We're one nation and we're made more powerful by our diversity. The mosaic it would be dull if it was made up of colors, pieces of all the same shapes and sizes. It would be interesting and artistic for a few brief moments, but then you'd pass on and yawn like I saw someone doing at my talk, which means I'm getting boring. It wouldn't be interesting anymore. Our diversity is what's given us power and what's made us interesting. It's time for us to come together, and so here's my dream. How are we doing with time? I'm over?
Sure.
Oh my God. Okay. You're going to have to talk. You're going to, am I really, did I not see my 5 or my 10 or my 3 or my 1?
Let's go 6.
6. Okay. Okay. I sort of like leaving it with here's my dream and shut up and goodbye. It rescues me, right? Here's my dream. And I'm looking for a few other crazy people, not because you're in my like-minded community, but because you're crazy enough to say, when I ask this question to every single person that I've asked it to, and I'll try it with you, is this the world that we're living in now? Is this the world that you always dreamed of giving to your children and your children's children?
No.
Every single person. Is there anybody that says yes? Please raise your hand. It is? Can you please tell me? I would love to hear why it is the world you want to give to people.
Because it's real.
Okay.
And these conflicts you talk about, they're real.
I agree with you.
If you toss it out, then we're in some kind of fantasy.
Okay. So do you believe, I want to have dialogue with you. I love what you just said because you can tell I believe one of my best qualities is I'm a real person. I say what I believe. I dress the way I think I should be dressed. I'm not trying to cower to what other people believe. But I don't believe that being real means we have to be in conflict. I believe being real means that we find harmonious ways to allow our voices to come together, and that's my dream. This isn't the world I want to hand to my kids. And if for the 99.8% of you, except for that one guy in the back, no. What's your name? Harry? Harry, I love you. You make this conversation even more beautiful. For those of us who say this isn't the world that we want to give to our kids and our grandkids, and for the people, even if Harry, I think even you would say, for the conflict that exists in it, for even to find ways to resolve that conflict. If this isn't the world that we want to do, there was a beautiful woman in the time of Martin Luther King's civil rights movement. And her name just escapes my mind, but I'll get it to you. And she said, no one is going to solve our problems but you and me.
How?
The how is coming. The American Indian, how. Okay, I'm going to stay with you. If we don't decide right now to change the way we're doing things, the world that we have will be the one that we hand over. There will not be a mystical solution that comes where Jesus Christ will reappear, or for those of you Jewish, that our Messiah will finally come and the world will resurrect and it will change and everything will be beautiful. We are the resurrection. We are the ones that are waiting, that the world's waiting for. So here's my dream. Risky, because I'm in only the beginning stages. I want to create something called the Damn Club. I want to hear you say it. That damn club. Say that damn club. That damn club. That damn club! The Damn Club is a $1 a month club. That's what it stands for. It's the acronym for $1 a month. And the only thing I want to ask for people is $1 a month. And what $1 a month initially will allow you to do is it'll allow you to come together with people of unlike mind in virtual rooms and in brick and mortar places all across the world. And what we'll be able to do is talk to people who disagree with us without screaming and yelling and fighting. We can't have conversations anymore. All we have is yelling and fighting and talking over people. You listen on Fox News or CNN, it doesn't matter which side of the barrel you're on. People have an adversarial belief on, and they don't listen to each other and respond. They talk over each other. You don't even know who's talking and what they're saying, and it doesn't make any sense. It's time for us to start to listen to each other. Because here's one thing I learned from my travels. I had the opportunity to sit with the richest people in the world. and have dinner with them and be guests in their home and know their children and know their parents. And I've had the opportunity at the same time to sit on street corners with the poorest of the poor. And I'll tell you one thing, it didn't matter what their skin color was, it didn't matter how much money they had, it didn't matter what religion they practiced, it didn't matter what their political beliefs were, it didn't matter what border they lived behind, it didn't matter whether they were women or men. Every single one of them wanted one thing. They wanted to be loved and accepted. They wanted to be listened to and heard. They wanted to be acknowledged and validated. Not one of them asked me to agree with what they believe, because they understood I had the right to believe what I believe. What I want to have happen is to create spaces, virtual and real, where people can come together to say what they believe. And I'm working with people in a new blend of AI and human intelligence called Swarm AI. Unanimous AI is the name of their company, and they're working in this consciousness of swarm consciousness, that if you look at the way birds fly, if you look at the way fish swim, if you look at the way bees move, if you look at the way ants do, nature moves in swarms. Humans move in crowd. Oh, I think we should go this way. Okay, let's go. But we don't move in sync with each other. Birds don't follow a leader. They all feel the currents, and they move together in harmony with each other. It's impossible to do it any other way. So they decided to look and see, would it be possible to get the human crowd mentality mind to operate in a swarm mind? And they created software that allowed people to come into a room of unlike mind and have their mouse from wherever they were in random places around the world magnetically affect a puck in the middle to a space on an octagon that had different solutions. They became well known because they picked the winners of the Kentucky Derby because they were challenged by CBS to find not only the first place winner, but the first, second, third, and fourth place winner. And the chances of doing that were 586 to 1 against them. And a swarm of 40 horse enthusiasts, these weren't professional horse racers, these weren't gamblers, these weren't handicappers, these weren't owners of horses, just people who liked to watch horse racing. They came together and they chose together as 40 of them as a unified mind, first, second, and third, and fourth. And I can hear you already thinking, well, that's because a few of them knew better and they led the swarm in one way. But here's the amazing thing. Not one of them on their card chose the first place horse to come in first on their card, nor the second place horse to come in second, nor the fourth place horse to come in fourth. Only one of them chose the horse that came in third to come in third. But collectively, their universal mind, their collected mind, the collected consciousness of the people in this room has been able to change the words that I'm saying into something of a movement of your heart that affects all of us, that you could feel tangibly. When I asked you, do you feel a difference in the room? Do you feel what's going on? Most of you raised your hand. Our collective consciousness is able to do things that we need to do, and we're going to need that connected consciousness. We're going to move into a new century where in 25 years, we will no longer be the most intelligent species on the planet. AI will overtake us. And we're not even talking about the fact that we are now going to colonize other planets. We're about to put colonies on Mars of people, but we haven't figured out how to feed people here. We haven't figured out how to end homelessness. We haven't figured out how to end racism. It is my hope that by bringing these people together, 1 billion of them, my dream is to make that damn club 1 billion strong, which means we will have $1 billion a month. And we will determine, as we the people, what programs we want to work on to solve. We're going to take on world hunger, say, this year. And we're going to put our think tanks, our innovation circles of people of all minds together, and we're going to gather the data of all those people, use the solutions they come up with, and we're going to put it into the swarm room. And we're going to start to choose, where do we invest this $1 billion a month that we ourselves are going to do. We're not going to anybody to ask for money. It's our dollars, like pieces of a mosaic, broken little pieces. Our $1 will make up $1 billion a month. And so we'll make some mistakes. Are you willing to lose $1 a month to try and innovate and find reasons to do things that have never been done before? Yes or no? Yes. Well, I'm willing to take those $1 billion that we get together and be called an idiot for blowing $1 billion a month. But we have to take risks because what we're doing isn't working. We're not solving those problems. It's shameless to me today that we have homeless people. It's shameless to me today that we can't feed people. It's shameless to me that we don't educate people. It's shameless to me that people are suffering around what they're going to do medically. I can't believe that we exist in a world where we are so advanced and so retarded. Right? It's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. So what I'm asking you is to get in touch with me. We're in the early stages of it. If you feel drawn, if you think I'm an idiot, just say, I hope I never have to see that guy again. And I will support you and salute you, because I'm in that camp too. But unfortunately, I have to see this guy every day. I look in the mirror and that's all I see. So I've got to keep on keeping on, okay? And if you believe anyway like I believe, and she's saying, get the hell off the stage, it's time, don't you see me doing it? If you believe in this the way I believe in it, then get in touch with me and let's try and figure out how to do it together, because every one of our voices will make it happen. Thank you. I've overstayed my welcome. I appreciate you.